Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, yo.
And welcome to another episode of GymnasticsVille. I'm your host, Midknight Robin. We in the bird's nest, and we have a fantastic show in store for everybody today. Sam Zakutney, Penn State, Canadian national team member, two-time world team member actually for Canada. You have a bunch of accolades here that we're going to get into today. But first off, how are you doing? How's your family? Is everyone safe where you're in?
I'm actually still in state college right now, but I'm doing okay. I keep up with my family a lot, and they're staying safe, they're staying healthy, taking all the right precautions. So yeah, everybody's doing good.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get right to it. The season suddenly, went to a halt with this pandemic. Your senior year, you were a finalist for the Neeson Emery Award, the highest honor for a senior in men's gymnastics for college. So can you just talk about what was your thought process once you got the phone call from your coaches that the season's over?
It was definitely a big surprise. I didn't know exactly how to react. We actually were told towards the end of one of our workouts, and it was heading into our William and Mary meet, and it was actually one of the best workouts I've had in a while, and all the routines were going really well. I ended off the workout with probably the cleanest high bar routine I ever did.
Wow.
And I was super happy. And then Randy just brought us all onto the floor and said that, so William and Mary decided to cancel their meet. And I was like, well, okay, that's another weekend to just relax and recoup. And then he just dropped the ball there, saying that the rest of the season was going to be the same. And I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know how to process it. It was like such a high to such an instantaneous low, and I don't know. I was very much in shock a bit. I didn't break down the first time I heard it, but I just didn't know how to take it. And then as the day went on, it all hit, and I didn't exactly know what to do, but things are working out right now. So
okay, all right. So, I mean, you've had a great career for Penn State. Came in as an all-arounder, won Big Ten Freshman of the Year, your first year there. Can you talk about maybe what is one of your best accomplishment with Penn State, either as a team or as an individual, and just elaborate on that a little bit?
I think definitely the most memorable accomplishment with Penn State has to be winning the Big Ten championship title as a team. For not only my junior year, but it seemed like for every year before that and even this year, it always seemed like we always struggled to really just bring it together all at once. Like there was always one performance that kind of felt a little off, and that kind of just ruined the rhythm of the rest of the meet for us. And the Big Ten team competition was definitely the first time where everybody felt like they were in complete unison and everybody was just going with them, or everybody was in the zone. Yeah. Everybody was in the same mindset, and it all worked out perfectly. So that was definitely the most memorable one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense. And let's talk about the Big Ten a little bit, because I feel the Big Ten is the most competitive conference in college gymnastics. So, I mean, I just feel like any year there's 3 to 4 teams that could win it. I mean, did you guys feel the same way with some of the other championships? Do you feel like, I know you guys won last year, but the years before that, did you feel like you still kind of could contend for that title, being how competitive the Big Ten is? What was you guys' mindset some of the other years?
I'm sure our mindset was very similar years before. Freshman year, I didn't really have a mindset, to be honest. I don't know. I come into the NCAA not having any real background on how good or how exactly amazing the other teams were. So I kind of just went into freshman year just trying to treat it like any other meet and just really just be confident in myself. Sophomore year, I think we definitely had a chance to contend. I thought we had a pretty good shot, and things turned out the way they did. Junior year, I was definitely very confident, and I think definitely the most confident, I think. And this year, I mean, we were still going through like we were still trying to polish up a little bit, but I still think we had, given the amount of time that we still had leading up to the Big Tens, I think we would have had a very good chance to contend for sure. But I think definitely junior year, everybody was. I don't think the team looked as confident as they did. So.
Nice. Okay. I want to talk about your freshman year because I think freshman years for college gymnasts could go a bunch of different ways. And usually freshmen, I mean, there's very few on teams that when you come in as a freshman, you're doing all around. I mean, you rarely see it. So you came in to Penn State your freshman year. You were by far, in my opinion, the best all-rounder on the team. So can you just talk about their transition from, competing on their, junior national team in Canada, really being one of the, best Canadian gymnasts at that time, and then coming into Penn State where you're competing 10 meets a year when it starts. It's like from start to finish. It's a really crazy schedule. How did you handle coming in, just all of a sudden competing in so many events?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It just, I guess I kind of.
Yeah, you were a stud, man. I'm telling you.
Maybe, Maybe I let it get to my head. Maybe I was a bit entitled as a young athlete with a lot of experience. I knew I had a lot of experience, so maybe I had the impression that maybe I would get the chance to compete a lot more than I expected to. But
were you expecting to compete that much going in? Was your mindset okay, I'm going to go to Penn State, I'm going to do all around? Because I know, until you get to college, it's more of an individual sport for the junior side. So you're used to competing all around. But, I mean, so did you have that mindset, or you were kind of just going with the flow?
I was just kind of going with the flow, to be honest. Just kind of get a feel of where I think I could make the most impact for the team. And I guess given the circumstances and the little hiccups we had earlier on in the season, it looked like they needed a bit more depth on most of the events. And so I was the guy to get the job done. So, but I will say, competing that much and not expecting to, it definitely gave me a lot more confidence in my ability to perform under pressure, especially towards the end of season when I was getting pretty much pooped or just exhausted from just competing all the time. But I was still able to put up decent performances, I thought, and so that definitely set the tone for the rest of my time at Penn and definitely gave me the impression that, there really isn't much that can stop me from doing what I have to do, and I just have to treat it that way. So,
nice. All right, this next question. I already know the event I love watching you on, but I want to know from you, what's your favorite event and why?
I've always been fond of parallel bars.
Heck yeah, that's my favorite event.
I've always been fond of parallel bars, but I will say I do enjoy competing high bar as well.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
They both have to be up there for my favorite events to compete and train. High bar, I don't know, the high flying releases and kind of just showing off, putting on a performance like that. And parallel bars, I just like the mix and match of support and hanging stuff. I guess I like P bars that much because it's kind of similar to high bar to me because I do a lot more long hang, I guess, than the traditional routine. But no, I don't know. Those are definitely my favorites for sure. And yeah, I don't know.
Now, regarding P bars and high bar, because I'm always interested into the progression. I know obviously those are some of your top events now. But as a junior, was that transition to be good on those events? Was that the same kind of growing up, or did you have better events and then you got better as you became a stronger gymnast?
I definitely think I had a decent base when I was a kid. I will say though, I think high bar was definitely my worst event when I first started gymnastics. I don't know. I guess I was just very tense during my swinging, and like there was one meet where I just completely broke down and I was just terrified. And I completely had to water down my set, and I felt so ashamed of myself that I lacked that much confidence in it. But yeah, and then like as the season went on, I got to relatively harder and harder routines until one year, what was it, like 2009? Maybe I was like, yeah, 2009, like Eastern Championships for me. So I was representing my province or whatever, and
Okay.
I ended up winning the high bar event title then. And so realizing where I started off and how like it seemed like I had no chance. And then I don't know, everything started clicking, and I realized like, yeah, like I worked this hard and I made that much progress. Like, let's see what else is in store. And next thing you knew, like with enough grit and work, it just things started putting itself together, and to the point where I actually enjoyed doing it a lot more. And then from there, it was just so much easier to just kind of try new things and put things together. And yeah, it definitely didn't start off that way. That's my point. But yeah.
And so just a follow up to that. So what is it that makes, when you're younger doing high bar, what is it that makes high bar so much more challenging than some of the other events as a youngster?
I think it's just the lack of weight that you have. Like, you can't get a good bend on the bar. You can't really – there's no real way to utilize, I guess there's no real way to utilize the bounce of the bar when you're so tiny, and you have to do all the work for yourself. Whereas when you have like a good amount of weight to you and you can bend the bar, you don't have to work so hard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can
feel it more, right? You can kind of
you get a better feel of the equipment. Exactly. Yeah. And same thing for P-bars too. It's the exact same way. Just you get a better feel for the equipment, and it works with you as opposed to working against you.
Nice. Let's talk about World Championships. World Championships. You're out there. You represented Canada 2 years on the world team. Can you talk about that experience and competing at World Championships?
You want me to talk about both? Or
you can talk about just, I guess in general, competing at World Championships. You can talk about, that first year versus that second year. But, like I said, sometimes I ask a bunch of loaded questions, but what's the difference between competing at a World Championships versus a Canadian Championships? What's that feel like?
I will say this year competing at the Canadian Championships, I felt a little more pressure on myself to just kind of – I knew that in the NCAA and at least in the Big Ten I had somewhat a name for myself, so everybody knew who I was and what kind of athlete that I was. Like my coaches and my teammates, like they know that I consider myself like a very reliable competitor.
Yep.
But it felt like I still needed to prove that to all of my Canadian teammates back home, and the head coach. So that's kind of where maybe I was a little more calm, a little more collected, not so I've never been much of a loud competitor myself, but
Gotcha.
But I definitely had to resort to being a little more like collected and a little more discreet and just let my work speak for itself. And so I just stayed in the right mindset and just event by event, routines got done really well, and eventually I just became national champion, and maybe no one expected it of me, but I knew I had what it took. And as the meet went on, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. Okay.
Nice.
And then that opened the door for so many other competitions like Pan Am Games, and then making the world team again, and every meet since nationals, it just seemed like everything was working out well. And I think I've definitely established better relationships with everybody. I've definitely just proven that I am not just a good college competitor, but I applied the same to the professional level. And then once Worlds came around, I don't know, I just tried to have a good time.
Yeah.
I agree. We had like a team training camp in Portugal the week before, and that was a lot of fun. training with a bunch of guys that I haven't exactly had the chance to get along with that much in the past.
Yeah.
And just that week of just relaxing together, training together, eating together, and I've kind of established my own bond with them like I would have at Penn. And then when we got to Worlds, like everybody trusted each other completely, and we knew what we needed to focus, what we needed less of to work right. So we definitely were a much more cohesive team by the time we got to Worlds. And then competing was just so much fun. Competing was like any other college meet, to be honest. So
Nice. How's the equipment? How would you like? How were you able to adjust to the equipment at World Championships? Is it bouncier? Is it not? Something that you're used to, or how did you adjust to that?
Adjusting to it was a little different for every event, honestly, because at Portugal, a lot of the equipment that we used was Spieth, or sorry, not Spieth, Janssen Fritzen, like a European brand.
Yeah.
And some of the equipment was new, and then some of the equipment was actually a little old. Like, for instance, the floor was rock hard, so I was worried that I was going to bust my ankles before I go into Worlds, but luckily that didn't happen. But the bars, all the bars and the rings, they were pretty similar, to be honest. The vault table had a lot of give to it. It didn't look like.
Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Given more block, right, or no?
It depends on where your block is
Gotcha.
what I'm saying. Because typically when I do my double fronts, I try to get my hands as low on the table as I can, and sometimes that doesn't happen. But usually on an AAI, it's still sturdy enough to where if I'm reaching all the way back, I can still finish that push through the shoulder to get the amount of height that I need.
Yep.
Whereas if I do that on a Spieth table, that sucker is just going to lean completely over, and then I'm just going to shoot all the way forward and go and do maybe the longest double front that I've ever done, and I might not even land it. But so that's one thing that I had to take into consideration. The parallel bars are definitely a little bouncier, I think.
Is that a good thing for your gymnastics, or what?
I'm not typically the most patient gymnast, so I guess for a lot of the support stuff, typically not. I guess on a P-bars I am a little bit more of a fast twitch, but the fact that they're wooden bars makes the grip so nice. So all the long hanging stuff is a lot more enjoyable. The high bar piece is, I would say, a little bit less bouncy than AAI, which means I have to work a little harder to get everything around, which makes it a little tiring, but not that big a deal. Rings I didn't compete, but I still trained, and there was really no difference there. And floor, going to Portugal, training on a rock hard floor, and then going to Worlds, training on something that felt like a tumble track.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I heard the floor Worlds is pretty good.
Having to completely change the way I approach into my tumbles, and not trying too hard, and really just being patient with body position in the set before wrapping in. And yeah, that took a little bit of time for sure, but it all worked out in the end. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so I want to talk about some of the Canadian greats. I mean, part of our show is about history. So, you growing up in Canada, who are some of the top gymnasts that you looked up to that maybe provided inspiration, to help you continue your career?
I think definitely when I was a first time, I guess, Canadian national participant, definitely Olympic gold medalist Kyle Schufelt, who won gold on floor in 2004. He was definitely one of my long-term inspirations. He had retired for a while since then, but what was it, my second nationals ever, and I won the all-around title in my age group, and he was the one giving out the medals to everybody on the podium, and he put the gold medal on me, shook my hand, gave me a commemorative plaque or whatever, and then I go over to my mom, and they actually caught this on video, where I'm looking at her and I'm like, that's him. Oh my, that's him. And so definitely that one.
So I have a question with Kyle. Follow up: is he considered the greatest Canadian male gymnast of all time? I mean, who would you consider? If not him, then who?
I think he's definitely up there for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know. I feel like I would have to dive in a little more into my Canadian history, but I would say that if we're talking purely world and Olympic accolades, I would say Alexander Jelkov. I think like a
Ooh,
multiple
that's
time.
a name I haven't heard that much. Okay,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
generation or?
Yeah, I actually just saw a video of his high bar routine. I forget on what Instagram channel it was, but where unfortunately he hung on the dismount. But no, like silver medalist at the Olympics on high bar, like a world's finalist on several occasions on high bar. So I think for even though it's the one piece, like he was definitely like some of the best in the world there. Brandon O'Neill, I think, is another good name. Like he's multiple time like World Cup winner or medalist, I think, on floor.
Yeah.
Definitely a very reliable competitor. I don't know. There are so many names to name, like Adam. Nathan Gafuk. Nathan Gafuk is a good one. No, I think if not Kyle Schufelt, I think Alexander Jelkov would be my guess. I think that's my take.
So a few years ago, I was actually at Canadian National Championships. First of all, it was a great experience. I like the fact that the men and the women compete at the same time. There's definitely a lot going on. I like that. And I was actually very impressed with a lot of the juniors coming up. And do you have that feeling that, right now with what Canada's going on, you guys have a great senior squad, a bunch of juniors coming up. I mean, do you feel on the men's side, Canadian gymnastics is on a rise in terms of, improving the rankings on that world stage?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Canada's doing all the right stuff to really try to bring us back to a level where we may have been in the past. Definitely. There's a lot of young talent now, not only on the junior side, but also a lot of the senior guys now are actually like fairly newcomers like myself. I've only been to 2 world championships, but a lot of good raw talent that just needs a little more experience competing internationally, that is. But I definitely think, definitely the juniors are making big strides. And I think Felix Dulce is leading the way there for sure. He's definitely one of the best juniors. He was one of the best juniors, like world medalist at the Junior World Championships on rings. Like that's not an easy thing to accomplish. So no, he's definitely going to set the tone for all the newcomers trying to butt heads with the seniors. And I think it's a good thing. It's going to make it a lot more competitive of a field for us and put the best and have everybody just really strive to be the best. And it's definitely going to make up for a much more driven team for sure.
Men's gymnastics, growing the sport. That's what I want to talk about a little bit right now. I'm obviously a big fan of the sport. You're in the sport right now. What do you think can be done to grow or improve the marketability of men's gymnastics worldwide? When I look at gymnastics compared to some of these other sports, I know I'm biased, but I just feel like it's way more exciting. I mean, what do you think it's missing or what can be done to kind of grow the fan base, in your opinion? I know this is a tough question. It's not an easy question, but we all think of it, right? I mean...
Yeah. I've heard so many different perspectives on this topic and so many different ways to make it better. And honestly, they're all really good ideas, but I can't provide... There's nothing that hasn't already been said that I wouldn't think of on my own. Okay. I don't know. Sure, making the scoring system a little bit easier for people that maybe don't understand, what separates a great routine from a bad routine. Or maybe it's just the fact that, or doing that might promote, a new fan base but lose the one that we already have. But maybe that's a good thing, or maybe it isn't. I don't know. But maybe just... I really couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's...
It was tough. I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I think it's just going to take a bit of... I don't know. I think it's just going to take a little bit of dexterity and maybe just a little bit of, curiosity in the new fan base to just, I don't know, kind of be willing to kind of look into it for themselves. But I don't know, that just can't happen overnight. But I don't know where I stand. But
were you surprised at all by all the commotion about bringing back the 10? I mean, personally, I was kind of shocked. So, I know actually Penn State, you guys actually hosted a 10-0 type competition. I know Minnesota did. But within the middle of all that, it seems like there's, like you mentioned, there's two trains of thought, I was shocked that, Mark Williams kind of wrote a letter and, in his defiance against it. And a lot of fans were like, no. Some fans were like, yes. Were you surprised by all the commotion with this scoring? And, potentially adding this? Or were you shocked at all?
I don't think so, no. I wasn't surprised. I mean, I want to say that, like, my coach Randy and, like, Tony, like Randy and Tony, they've both been very adamant about this topic for a while, even before, like, they actually made it public. So, like, Tony would always ask us in, like, team huddles, like, what his thoughts were, or what our thoughts were if we were to do that, or whatever. And Randy would go on and talk about how when he competed at Penn State and how literally stadiums were completely full, and that sounded awesome. Yeah. To go to a gymnastics meet like that and literally have it sold out, or people waiting outside like they would for football games. Like, that just sounds amazing. But so I knew the amount of, like, drama, I guess, it would bring in once it got public. I was a little surprised with how I guess aggressive that response was, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
it was pretty aggressive. It was.
I seem out of place to talk about this, but
hey, it's okay. This is your sport. You were in it. That's why for me, I was always curious when this was going on. I was like, you know what? I wonder what the generation thinks that has never experienced the 10. So you've never experienced the 10, right? Canada's never had the 10-0 system in their junior program. I know for the women. For America, they still have the 10 unless you're an elite. And I'm not sure what the scoring system is for Canada when you're a junior, or even what the women are doing. So, I mean, have you ever competed in the 10-0 system?
Maybe when, like, I first started competing, like in the very beginner levels, and, like, the max score was a 10, but they were like all compulsory routines. Like, it really wasn't bad, but. And then once things started getting a little more, like, intricate, like, once I started competing in more, like, I couldn't compare it to the American, like, level scale or whatever, but I mean, I guess once I started getting around the age of, like, 11 and routines started being a little more optional, like, they weren't out of 10 anymore. They were very much like they ranged from all over. So, no, I couldn't tell you, but I've had some experience with a 10-0 scale, but it hasn't been. I hardly used it at all.
Gotcha.
Is what I think. So I don't have a real input on it. But when we did do the William and Mary meet under the 10-0, I was honestly, like, pretty. I was excited to see how well it would work. I was a little bit. I had hopes for it. I really did. I thought it would be interesting. The only issue is like, maybe I should have informed myself a little bit more on how the conversion would work, instead of going into the meet not exactly having a great idea on how that would do, and then getting a score and not knowing if that was good or bad.
Gotcha.
I guess.
Gotcha.
And I guess it wasn't until, like, after the meet that we realized, so it's going to be like, or what they were hoping to do is, like, every 10th in FIG would convert to, like, a quarter 10th in the 10-0 or something like that. And 15 being, like, the max for the assigned event, I guess. Like, not for all of them, but. So I guess listening or hearing that afterwards, okay, so that makes it a little bit easier, but I don't know. It seems simple enough, but the fact that it took so long for people to figure it out, that's what kind of ruined it, I think.
Gotcha.
But I'm sure with enough time, it'll be a little more, like, natural to everybody. So I feel like it's going to work out for the better, but I just hope it doesn't mean having our old fan or our current fan base kind of lose interest. If it means, well, if it does, hopefully it means bringing in a lot more of a newer fan base. But we're just going to have to wait and see about that.
Okay, next question. Don't get mad at me. I have to ask this question because I'm curious myself. And just as a prerequisite to this question, I was a gymnast myself, but I also transitioned into the arts and entertainment. And, all my performances had music. So the women have music. I'm not sure if you've been following, obviously, the women's gymnastics, but how their routines have gone viral, Caitlin Owashi, and all that. And I think music has a lot to do with it. And for men's floor, you guys do way harder difficulty. I mean, I think that's obvious, but it seems like the women get more fame from that. What are your thoughts on music being added to men's floor?
It means we'd have to learn how to dance.
Yes.
And the fact that we don't dance at all right now, I'm not sure exactly what. I mean,
have you ever?
I wouldn't.
Have you ever seen like martial arts kata? Have you ever experienced that where they're doing their martial arts routine and there's music in the background? They're not necessarily dancing to it, but it is music in the background, and in some of the beats they are finishing some of their swings or their kicks. So I mean, maybe not dancing, but just what about the thought of, okay, Zams, what's your favorite song, or what song do you listen to, and just having that in the background, and then maybe for a certain pass you actually end on the beat. I don't know. I mean, do you think you doing floor music to one of your favorite songs, do you think that would hype you up? Do you think your performance would change kind of having that in the background?
I don't think that's a terrible idea. If anything, that could promote like an additional component to the scoring system, maybe like in terms of like synchronization.
Yeah.
Like landing right on the drop. But then again, like I don't know if anyone's going to use like an EDM song to a gymnastics floor routine. But I'm not sure. I personally would be perfectly fine without having floor routine.
No, I understand. And I understand from your standpoint because you haven't grown up doing it, so just all of a sudden doing it. And that's why I feel that, I mean, everyone in the world listens to music. I mean, it moves people. It enables the crowd to interact with certain aspects of the routine. You see that a lot. And, you're hearing, kind of the girls stay and they clap and then they get the crowd involved. And I just feel like maybe music could do that. But who knows? I just think that you're actually the one that's kind of been, I feel like I've weaned you onto my side a little bit. Maybe you don't have to dance to it, but just having it, I just feel like it would hype me up. If I threw on a song while I'm tumbling, it would hype me up for sure.
I agree with that one.
All right, and we're gonna close it off with this though. So, all right, so we're in this pandemic. There looks like there's a lot of gyms opening around the world, especially here in the States. What is kind of your goals moving? You're done college now, So the first question is, are you going to continue your training? Number one, and number two, kind of what is kind of your goals for the next few years if you are continuing to stay in the sport?
So I'm definitely still planning on training for a bit. I still have, even though my collegiate career is over, I still have one more semester to go before I get my degree, so I'm going to graduate in December, so I'm going to stick around with Penn State until then, and I've been told that I'm free to train with them as well. I know Steven Nedorozic is doing the same, so we'll be doing that together.
Cool.
Afterwards, my plan is maybe to go right back home, maybe to Ottawa, and train there, or I could take on a volunteer assistant coach position at Penn and stick around through the spring as well. I still haven't made up my mind about that, but and afterwards, starting fall of 2020, I think I want to, or fall of 2021, sorry, I want to get my master's degree in biomedical engineering and hopefully apply to a university in the Montreal area and get accepted there, because that's where the National Training Center is, so it kind of works as a win-win. Kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
So complete a master's there and then train with everybody else who's training there, like Corey and Joel, both past NCAA gymnasts. So kind of on the same boat. I feel like we'd get along pretty well. And between now and then, I would like to definitely try and make a few international competitions that I haven't in the past, like a Commonwealth Games I haven't been to yet, so that'd be awesome to go to. It'd be awesome to go to another Pan Am Games, of course. I definitely want to go until the end of the quadrennium, so by 2024, by then I'll be like maybe 25. I feel like by then usually some gymnasts peak, I feel like some peak maybe after that, but I feel like at 25 I'll have a good hint of how much more potential I have left in store.
Nice.
And then after that, I think I'll make the call. Maybe I pursue my engineering passion full time.
Yeah.
Or I decide to just kind of stick around a little bit longer, but I don't know. That's kind of my plan. Definitely until 2024, I want to keep training. Maybe train professionally, maybe work part-time on the side, but I'm not sure yet. But.
Nice. Yo, that's good to hear, man. So, yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't say retire, because I'm like, I just feel like you have a lot left in the gas tank. And nice. I'm stoked, man. I'm sure your fans are stoked to know that we at least got you in the sport for another 4 years. That's great stuff. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Yeah, so am I. Yeah.
All right, and I just want to thank you for coming on. And yo, man, we'll definitely stay in touch and get you back on the horn. And hopefully you're just staying safe. And can't wait to see you guys back in the gym.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. This was awesome. This was a great time. And yeah, stay safe as well. Stay healthy. And I wish you all the best. And take care.